The other top banks that were targeted are commonly banks within American-speaking countries, since those countries typically do not have a really good security system like we have in Germany with our transaction numbers. And in total, we found more than 10,000 different bank accounts. And if you remember, 25 bank accounts had a total of $120,000. So you can imagine that 10,000 accounts have probably a bit more money on them. For credit cards, we use a different trick. Basically, a credit card can be verified with the so-called Loon algorithm, which is a basic, very simple checksum to verify whether a given number is a valid credit card number. So it's a very easy way to validate a given number. It's not designed in order to be something like a hash, but more like to protect against accidental errors. So you can have false positives via just applying Loon algorithm, but it helps you in order to get a rough overview of whether or not something is a possible credit card number. It's just the code, so no, but just skip this. So in total, we found a couple of thousand also credit card numbers, about 3,000 Visa, 1,400 MasterCard passwords, credit card numbers. And then lots of others. So it also seems to be rather efficient in order to use keyloggers to steal this kind of information. What is more interesting is that the attackers also quite often steal information from other sites. This is Alexa. Alexa is a website that basically has a popularity measurement. So they have some techniques in order to estimate how popular a given website is. For example, from the top 50 Alexa sites, 18 are portals like live.com or webmail providers like Gmail. So these are the main popular sites that the users use on the internet. And we also see that those sites are the typical targets of stolen credentials. So we found more than 66,000 different live.com accounts. So this was basically the biggest website that we've seen where accounts were stolen. We also saw lots of Yahoo accounts or Mail.ru or Rambler, which are more popular within Russia, where also tens of thousands accounts were stolen via the credit card via the keyloggers. Another popular type of websites are social networking sites or sites with a social component, like, for example, YouTube or Facebook or those other social networks. There we found lots of Facebook accounts, High Five, so the bigger sites, also StudiVZ for Germany, but then within Poland or Russia, we also found the top social networks with lots of stolen credentials. Since I have only 10 minutes, I skip over those two slides. Just some slides on protection. So how can you protect yourself against this kind of threats? So the typical security measurements also apply for keyloggers. Just patch quickly once a new patch is available. So because the attack vector are typically something like drive-by downloads or social engineering. Against drive-by downloads, you can protect yourself with the help of updates, if it's not a 0-day, of course. And social engineering, you need some more security awareness. So this is the other thing. Do not click on suspicious links, since this is something you would also do not do in reality. So be more security aware. Also, do not open suspicious attachments, since, as we've seen earlier on, all those attachments are also quite often malicious and contain the keylogger. Antivirus software can only help you to a limited extent. For example, here we have a report with VirusTotal, which scans with 38 virus scanners. In this case, 28 from the 38 antivirus scanners detected this, as here's Zbot. All the major ones, like Kaspersky, McAfee, Symantec, detected the threat. Only the smaller ones, they failed a bit. But yeah, they give you some kind of basic protection. But on the other hand, there are also other examples. For example, this was scanned, and only 2 from 34 antivirus vendors detected. But if we run this within CW Sandbox, we see again this antos.exe audio and video DLL. So this is clearly also Zbot, but only 2 from 34 antivirus engines correctly identify this as such. For protecting your bank accounts, so you notice that you can do safe transactions, I think within Germany we have a rather good protection system. For example, many banks offer something like Mobile TAN, which basically looks like the following. Each time you do a transaction, you get a confirmation SMS, so confirmation on your phone, which basically lists the amount you want to transfer, the target bank account, and then you get a transaction number. And you need to enter this transaction number during your bank transaction, and only if this information is correct, then the money is actually transferred. So this helps since you have a second channel. Some banks also use index TAN, the so-called ITAN. This cannot actually be considered secure anymore, since we've also seen malware that basically does in the browser attacks. So within the browser, they modify the visuals in such a way that the amount is transferred to another account, but the user doesn't see anything. So everything looks all right, but in the background, everything is transferred to another account, and we've seen malware that basically does this on the fly. So index TAN doesn't help you, but Mobile TAN and everything that has some kind of two-factor authentication also helps you. Okay, summary, my last 2 slides. There are many different kinds of banking trojans out there, so we studied in detail just 2, but there are tens of families out there, so probably this is just a rough overview I provided today, but the threat is real, so there are different kinds of banking malware out there. They're getting more and more sophisticated. With the techniques that we are using, basically automated collection of malware and then automated analysis, we can find the drop zones in an automated way, and then with the monitoring system we also get a better overview of what's located on the drop zone, because then we get at least a rough overview of what the underground economy looks like, so what kind of information is stolen, what can an attacker potentially earn. And question we still have is, how representative is the study we did, since we had more than 340 drop zones and only 70 of them where we had complete access. So as you see, it's not very much that we actually see. So is this only the top of the iceberg, the 170,000 victims, or how many victims are out there? So this is something I don't have a good answer to. So, but I guess that there are hundreds of thousands of victims infected with keyloggers where all their personal information are stolen. Last week we published a paper. It's available at honeyblog.org, which is my blog, where you get more information about, or more details about the things I talked about today. So more statistics, better overview of the things we did there. It's available at my blog, where you can also find out more about honeypots and other things. And then a few people helped. So Carsten developed the sandbox, Markus helped in the user simulation, Felix Freiling is my advisor, Frank helped with the soy stuff, Osford took care of the notification process. So many people who also helped in the study and whom I would like to thank. And now we have 5 minutes left for your questions.
Okay, we start at the front and I slowly work myself to the back, if that's okay. If you have another mic at the back, that's great.
Well,
Probably a slight delay.
hello? Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for that small piece of undocumented miracle that you have done to break into these collectors.
Actually, we didn't break into them, so we didn't use any vulnerabilities. So
okay.
it was just
So I remember that about 10 years ago, Microsoft has announced that they are going to release Internet Explorer for Linux. I'm still waiting for this, and whenever they do it, I'm I'm starting using it because I love to live in uncertainty. Life is dangerous. But I have configured a Macintosh for my mother and a Ubuntu system for my daughter. The question is, are they safe? Is my family safe? Is there a known vulnerability to Firefox or to Safari? Or is it all restricted to Internet Explorer?
And also, for example, with Chrome Inject that we've seen recently, this was supposed to basically also attack Firefox. So I think if Firefox gets more market share, then this will be the next target. And if you take a look at the security updates that Apple gets each month, so if you have to install 300 megabytes of updates each month, then I'm not really convinced that the Mac is actually really secure. So I think we'll also see attacks against those platforms.
But not known yet.
Not yet, but if it makes sense in their own. Okay.
Sorry. How many logins to porn sites did you find during your research?
Yeah, we didn't study that.
What? Sorry?
We didn't study that. I talked about these things we did here, so. But there are many of those, so yeah.
Was there any malware which was distributed as a Firefox add-on on addons.mozilla.org?
Chrome Inject. I talked about this briefly. So there's, I think, only this one sample that I know of. But
was it distributed on the official site?
No, it was. I don't know what the attack vector was. I got the sample from a different way, but it was not on the official site, but somewhere else, I think.
So downloading add-ons from addons.mozilla.org can be assumed to be safe?
Probably. So don't know.
Testing. Have you seen any attacks against two-factor authentication, specifically those with where you enter the amount into the token?
No, actually not. I think those systems are considered secure now. All those two-factor authentication where you enter your card or that does other things. Actually, I think we didn't see any attacks against those systems. I talked briefly about M10. I think this is probably the most secure system we have nowadays. So.
I'm going to hand over the microphone. If the person talking could just stand up so it's easier to locate them in the room, that'd be great.
Okay. Just one brief question to the last one. You said it was recently safe. So what about systems that use like encryption file on disk that is encrypted by a password? Many banks still give that out instead of a dedicated card reader to use with an online banking software. So I would assume that if you could just lock the password, of course that would need knowledge about the respective application, because it's not just Internet Explorer or some random browser. But given an attack vector that would like read the file and lock the password, which you would need, is there anything you found in that region, or do you think it's even worth doing that given it's so trivial phishing accounts of the web browser?
I think we didn't see this specific kind of attacks, but I think if you just keep this on disk, you have the problem that within the browser it's still in clear text. So, and then this is the point where the keylogger basically grabs the information, so you've still lost this credentials.
You talked of the targeted sites. How did they were targeted by the criminals? By special features of the malware, or it's just a popular by the victims? So what you meant the main targeted sites?
The main targeted sites, basically each keylogger has a configuration file, and within the configuration file the attacker specifies which websites should be observed, and this was the statistic about this config URLs.
Are those public?
Are those lists of the configuration files public? Are they on your blog somewhere?
Not really public. I don't know whether we can share this kind of info, but for example, trustier.com, they have a search engine where you can basically enter a given domain name, and then they tell you whether they saw attacks against this particular domain. So trustier.com.
Did you do some search on the owners of the drop zones? Did you find some patterns or?
This was rather diverse. So as I said during the talk, we saw many different autonomous systems. I think there were 3 autonomous systems that were pretty popular. But typically they had different who is information, so it was rather diverse and not really single large